Bears get their first win of this 2021 season. Yo, what's up, world? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in, and welcome to another Chicago Bears game reaction. The Bears get their first win of this 2021 NFL season with the 20-17 win over the Cincinnati Bengals in the home opener. Now, the way that this game plays out, it is a ton to get into. Offensively, defensively, there is a ton to get into with this Bears game. And I will be doing Bear reaction videos as well as Bear preview videos and other stories that happen throughout the NFL season. So if you enjoy content like that and you are a Bears fan or you're a fan of other teams, make sure you click that subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss a single video. But let's get into this Bears victory. Without further ado, let's dive into it.
I'm striving to get rich. That's why I almost went 2 years without buying shoes and fits. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little proud.
Now, the first thing is first I want to touch on before I get into anything Justin Fields related. The Bears defensively. The Bears defensively looked 1,000,000% better today than they ever did against the Rams. The Bears defense looked a ton better. The pass rush was getting home, which I said in my preview video was going to be a huge key to winning a football game like this. The Bears had to get after Joe Burrow, and they did. Robert Quinn showed up finally. I tweeted, is this somebody else in a Robert Quinn uniform? Because we haven't seen this Bear production out of him in a Bears uniform since we got him. And that Joe Burrow flop thing out of bounds. Can't have that. But it was also an NBA LeBron James like flop. So I'm going to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But at the same time, Robert Quinn showed up. I always said, if Robert Quinn shows up and he makes his presence known, and the interior of the Bears defensive line also helps, that frees things up for Khalil Mack to make his presence known in the football game. And that is exactly what happened today. Robert Quinn was able to do some things off the edge, and I like the way Sean Desai really schemed up some pass rush with having Quinn and Mack on the same side at times. That was a big key, and it freed up Khalil Mack to get pressure of his own. He got his first sack of the season. Bilal Nichols did some things in the running game, and a key to this defense in this game, I said, was the pass rush, and another thing was to contain and maintain the impact of Joe Mixon, and the Bears did that. Joe Mixon did not have one of those explosive games today. Joe Mixon is a big piece of that Cincinnati Bengals offense. He is a big piece of that Cincinnati Bengals offense. For the majority of the game, Joe Mixon's impact was minimized. Once you're able to minimize the impact of a guy like Joe Mixon, it kind of makes this Cincinnati Bengals offense one-dimensional. Joe Mixon's impact was minimized, and Cincinnati had to throw the ball more than they would like to. Even with Joe Burrow still playing at a very good level, the Bears finally created some turnovers. I didn't have that as a key to one of my videos because over the past couple of seasons, the Bears have not created a ton of turnovers. But today, the Bears were able to create turnovers. 3 picks and 3 Joe Burrow throws. The first pick, Roquan, pick 6. I think Roquan today, with his play outside of the pick 6, and you add that pick 6, he should have been on the top 100 player list. In my opinion, not just me as a Bears fan, but his impact on this defense. And he has to kind of cover up some of the things that Danny Trevathan doesn't have, that they don't have with Trevathan because Trevathan's out, even though Alec Ogletree is a very solid player in his own right. Roquan Smith is a top 100 player. He is easily one of the more underrated linebackers, defensive players in football. He gets overlooked a lot. And his speed as a linebacker on that pick 6 proved another thing with how much of an impact Roquan Smith has. And he also had a sack of his own today. Roquan Smith is an absolute force. He is an absolute force on this defense. Eddie Jackson with the strip fumble. The Bears defense played a very good game against a very solid Bengals offense. It's not like the Bengals offense is thing of the past where it was kind of slowed down. This is a very solid Bengals offense. And the Bears, for the most part, outside of the late small comeback, which I will get into a little bit later, the Bears defense played a much better game. Sean Desai schemed a much better game plan for this Bengals team than he did last week against the Rams. The Bears defense created turnover after turnover after turnover after turnover. And that is a big key, especially with the way that this Bears roster is constructed. The Bears have to create turnovers. They just have to create turnovers because the way that this defense is not the same defense that we had in 2018. They have to create turnovers. In order to make it to that defensive level, the Bears had to create turnovers, and they did that today. I just loved what I seen from the Bears front seven. The corners are still a little bit of a question outside of Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson played a hell of a game today. Jalen Johnson played a hell of a game. And the problem with the Bears is they don't have any good time depth at the corner position outside of Jalen Johnson. Duke Shelley really did not look very good today. Vildor had a couple of plays, but for the most part, he wasn't something that the Bears really need outside of Jalen Johnson. The corners are still a bit of a question mark with this defense, and the turnovers and the pass rush helped kind of hide them a little bit. This defense played solid today, and I love what I seen from them. I love how aggressive they was getting together the quarterback, creating turnovers. It was an absolute well-played game by this Bears defense. I'm going to transition to the Bears offense. Andy Dalton really did not look bad. He really looked solid before the injury. If he didn't see something, we all know Andy Dalton isn't the greatest of athlete, but he was still able to take off and run and get some yards. Now, it was unfortunate for the knee injury. It is very unfortunate. Very, very, very unfortunate. Because I feel Andy Dalton was playing a solid game up until the point of him getting hurt. The first drive of the game, touchdown Bears. They drove down the field and scored. That really, I feel, could have set the tone for this game. Andy Dalton was starting to find a little bit of a rhythm, and then the knee injury happens. So in comes Justin Fields. Everybody knows I'm one of the biggest Justin Fields fans, but the more you start to watch Justin Fields play, I think brought up another reason why Nagy really wasn't 100% comfortable starting Justin Fields right away, and that's because Justin Fields has the tendency to hold the ball maybe just a little bit too long. Now, me personally, if you guys are new to this channel or if you OGs, I am a diehard Ohio State fan. So I watched every single one of Justin Fields' games at Ohio State. One of the problems that Justin Fields had at Ohio State was the point that he held on to the ball maybe just a tick too long. And with the Bears tackles, Peters and Ifedi being a little bit inconsistent, well, I could really say the entire offensive line was a bit inconsistent today. With an offensive line that's not necessarily consistent enough up front for you to hold the ball as long as you need to or you want to, you have to get the ball out maybe a tad bit quicker, because you can see on a couple of throws where if he had got the ball out maybe just a tad bit earlier, you could have turned those into completions versus incompletions. That right there, I believe, is a little bit of a factor of why Nagy did not force Fields into the lineup right away, because that's not an easy habit to break, especially when he was playing with such a stout line at Ohio State versus you come into a Bears situation where the offensive line it's been interchangeable pieces with injuries to Burrow and Jenkins. You have Ifedi, who has some struggles. You have Mustafa, who's a young talent, but he's maybe not necessarily there yet. Whitehair, I think, is your best player on your line. And James Daniels is still coming back from an injury that cost him most of last season. And then on top of that, you have Jason Peters, who's 39 with an injury history, and you just signed in week 2 of the preseason. So the Bears offensive line doesn't really have that big continuity. And then on top of that, you have a quarterback that has a tendency to hold the ball a little bit too long and not make such as quick decisions as Andy Dalton does with Andy Dalton's experience in the league, him playing so many snaps in this league. It just gives you a little bit more of a reason why Andy Dalton was named the starter over Justin Fields. Now, we all know Justin Fields is athletic. We get it. He can get outside the pocket. We all know that. But at the same point, when you have a habit of playing against really playing with the great offensive line that he did at Ohio State, and you transition to this, it's going to take some time. Montgomery is a guy, once he gets fed the ball more, he's more effective. He gets those 15 to 20, maybe 25 carries a game. He's more effective running the football because the defense is broken down. They're kind of tired. They're kind of worn down. So at the end of the day, his effectiveness is increased the more he touches the football. And the offensive line, like I said, they were inconsistent. So they had a couple of bad plays here and there. But I do like the fact that Matt Nagy still stuck to the running game. He still stuck to the running game. And Allen Robinson has got to catch that ball. I think if Allen Robinson catches that ball on a deep ball from Justin Fields, that completely, I think, wipes out Cincy. That completely wipes out Cincy because we settled for a field goal on that drive. And on the interception by Blackson, we capitalized on that drive. That really puts the game out of reach. So we got to capitalize more on our opportunities to get touchdowns. Despite the offense looking a lot better than they did last week, we have to capitalize on our opportunities to get touchdowns and get points while we have them. Even though we did convert on the field goals, I think when you have those opportunities to get touchdowns, you have to get touchdowns. You have to find a way to put the ball in the end zone, especially against a Cincinnati offense that can really strike quick. Cincy can strike quick. Overall, offensively, the Bears looked a ton better. The running game was there. I believe that they stuck to it more than I thought they would. A thing that I believe Nagy has to do. Now, I'm not going to be one that's going to be hugely critical like I usually am. Watching Justin Fields and watching how the offense was, it does look different with Fields versus Dalton. I think we all see that. The Bears offensively looks different with Fields than it does Dalton. But I believe Nagy, number one, has to find more ways to use Fields' athleticism. At least that's from my vantage point. I don't know what you guys see. I would love to see how you guys feel about that. And number two, maybe Fields wasn't really quite ready for an expanded role like that, especially after the injury. Because those two false start penalties on Fields looks like he was a little bit nervous. And that is something I really don't, me personally, I haven't seen really from Fields. He looked a little bit nervous. He did, especially on that pick where, since let's just face it, they really fooled him on that play with bringing the house and then the linebacker dropped back in the coverage. He got fooled on that play. Let's just call it what it is. He got fooled. It was a bad read and he got fooled. And I think that's something that will be more correctable over time versus more experience and things like that. Overall, I think Nagy needs to find a little bit more ways to incorporate Fields being the athlete that he is. And Fields made some plays with his legs, especially late in that drive that really sealed the game with getting that key first down on 3rd and 9, where he almost looked like he was dead to rights, gone and sacked. He was able to get away from the Hendrickson pressure and got outside, stayed in bounds, and got down. Unbelievable play by Fields, and that shows his athleticism, that shows his speed, that shows he's elusive in the pocket, elusive as far as escaping pressure. But it's going to be interesting to see how this Andy Dalton injury plays out. Is he going to be out for an extended period of time? We'll learn that later on this week, and I'll probably do a video on that as well. Will it force Nagy to start Fields when maybe he really didn't think he was ready, or he really didn't want to at this point this early in the season? Is it time for Fields over Dalton? That's a question it's hard to answer because we only got a game and a half from Dalton. In the game and a half that we seen, Dalton really wasn't that bad of a quarterback, if you want to be honest. And Fields, even though he had some plays, he looked a little bit nervous. He did make some really good throws to Mooney. Mooney should have caught that one, but he did make up for the other catch. Allen Robinson should have definitely caught that one in the end zone. That would have changed the game. And I think on that third and first and goal situation after Blackson interception, Bears should have got points. And maybe Fields, I think, held the ball too long on that third and goal. We kind of see a little bit of why Nagy was a little bit hesitant to start Fields right away because, like I said earlier, he holds the ball maybe just a tad bit too long. Overall, amazing game. Great Bears win. Much needed win because starting off 0-2 is hard to make the playoffs. And you have an extra game. So overall, the Bears get a much needed win at home. The home opener 20-17 against the Bengals. Comeback's a little scary, but the Bears were able to hold and get the victory. And now we're 1-1 on the season. But that is all I have for you guys. Bears win. Leave this video a like if you enjoyed it. And comment your thoughts about the game down below. I am one that does read my comment section, so I would love to see what you guys think about this game down below. I am APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you get more videos from me, more Bears content, previews, and reaction and storylines throughout the NFL. But overall, make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great and excellent day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.